Hello, students, boys and girls. I hope you are enjoying this chapter in science, fiber to fabric. So till now we have seen how fibers are obtained from the natural plants, or we call them as natural fibers because we get them from the plants. They are cotton and jute. Yes. So now let us see. That was the first stage where we got the fibers. So we have the fibers now. I have the cotton fibers. I have the jute fibers. Next, how are these changed into or converted into or made into yarn? So all these fibers are first converted into yarns before we go to the fabric. So what happens? Fibers, they are converted into yarns. Now, how are they converted into yarns? By spinning. Spinning is the process used to convert the fiber into yarn. The process of making yarn from fibers is called spinning. Spinning is the process of making yarn from fibers. Okay. So from a mass of cotton wool, they are drawn out and twisted. So we have seen that we got the cotton wool, which have been separated from the seeds, and we got the cotton wool. So that cotton wool is again drawn out and twisted to make into yarn by spinning. So this brings the fibers together to form yarn. So what happens is this mass, if you see here the cotton wool, if you see this lady who is doing this, this is the complete cotton wool which was obtained from the plant, and then now it is being converted into yarn. So what is happening here? The cotton wool is being spun. Okay, the fibers are brought together to form a yarn. Okay, now yarning, to make the yarn from cotton, the previous methods, if you remember, charkha was used. Charkha, Gandhiji also used charkha. He used to say wear only cotton clothes. Cotton, because cotton, India, we produce a lot of cotton. We're saying there was a time during that time when people, they gave away or they stopped wearing anything from the foreign market, and then they were only using cotton. So cotton was used to make, so cotton clothes were used. So charkha was used to make the yarn from the fiber. From this cotton wool, the yarn was spun. And also tekli. This is a very old method of getting the yarn from the cotton. So if you see here, this cotton ball, and then slowly this is spun around this needle, and then a thread is made. Cotton yarn is made. Okay. So from these fibers, the yarn can be made using these types of, implements or appliances. So from mass of cotton wool, the threads are drawn out and they are twisted so that the fibers, they form into yarn. So we have seen now how we got yarn. So first we got the fiber. Second, we got the yarn. Yarn is nothing but the thread. If it is like very thin, then we call it as a thread. If it is slightly thicker, then we can call it, as a bundle of yarn. Okay. If it is very, very thin, we are calling it as a thread. So from the yarn now, this is the third stage. From yarn, we are going to the fabric. How is the fabric prepared? Fabric can be done either by weaving or knitting. There are two methods, weaving or knitting. First, we'll see what is weaving. Weaving is the process of arranging two sets of yarn together to make a fabric. So 2 or 3 sets this way. If you see here in the picture, there are 2, 3 fibers I've made into yarn. So I take 2, 3 yarns and make it into a fabric. So this is called weaving. Okay, so weaving of fabric is done on the looms. These are the looms. So this is a man-made loom. Okay, and this is machine. Man operated, not man made, it is man operated by man. Okay, so here the loom is being operated by physically by man, and whereas this is a machine is used to make the fabric. Okay, so this is the weaving process. So weaving process, what is happening? We are arranging 2 or 3 sets of yarn together, and then it is weaved into a cloth. It is weaved into a fabric. It is weaved into a material. So weaving of fabric is done on what are known as looms. Okay, these are the machines which we call them as looms. Looms can be either operated by man, or it can be machine operated or power operated, we call them. So this you can even try, by making small table mats and all. If you have the yarn with you or the thread, you can try. It is something like plating, plating, hair plating or braiding. So if you see like this, you can make various designs also. And then you're taking the various yarns. You can take various colors of the yarns and make into multicolored fabric also. So weaving is the process of arranging 2 sets of yarns together. So we are calling it as, here the keyword is the 2 sets of yarn together to make a fabric. It's called weaving. Okay, this weaving, you can, if you get to go for a field trip, whenever you get to go for a field trip, you can ask your teachers to take you to, factories. Like if I talk about Telangana, I can talk about, the factory in Pochampalli, or if students are in J&K or even in Agra, they can go to this carpet factories, carpet factory, and in Jammu Kashmir and all. There are many such factories where you can see actually the weaving process going on. There are looms. You can see people working on those looms. So you can see the yarn there, the yarn actually, because fiber has been changed, or fiber has been converted into yarn, and that yarn, how they make into fabric, that process is very interesting to watch. So I think when you go for a field trip, with your teachers, ask them to take you to such factories or places where you can see how this yarn is converted or changed or made into fabric. Okay. Now, the second procedure of changing yarn to fabric is by knitting. So, yarn to fabric. One we have seen is weaving. It can be done where 2 strands of yarn are taken and then they are weaved. In knitting, what happens is a single yarn is used to make a piece of fabric. They use only a single yarn. So, for example, socks and other clothing items. Some take your old socks, don't take the new ones, but take an old socks if you want to try this out. Just pull out one thread. What do you see? The complete sock, will start opening up. It will not have the shape of the sock. Just pull out one single thread. If you cannot do it with the hand, you can take a needle and try to pull out one single thread from the socks. You'll see that the complete sock will start opening up. It is like a single thread which is knitted into a sock. Okay, so the socks and many of the clothing items are made knitted fabrics. So knitting is done by hand or also by machines these days. And you all would be even familiar with the sweaters and all, winter wear. And you see, that people are knitting, and these knitting and the thread work and all also were taught, in some schools they teach as SUPW, a period where you have all, whoever is interested in whatever they want to learn, so they can learn knitting, they can learn stitching, they can learn embroidery. So where all types of fabric and yarn are used. Okay, so weaving and knitting are used for making different kinds of fabric. So fabrics are used for variety of clothing items. Now, where is this fabric used? Fabric is used to make different types of clothes. So now we know from fiber to fabric, all the stages from fiber to yarn, yarn to fabric. This is how the complete cycle goes till we get our ready-made clothes, or we get the fabric or the material we buy and we give it for stitching and we get lovely clothes made. Okay, got it? Interesting, isn't it? So this, if you see, it is a machine, and here it is knit by hands. Hand knitting is done using needles. There are specific knitting needles, and the thread using the yarn, a single yarn can be woven into nice, good fabric. Okay. So let's come to see what is the history of clothing material. We know that in the primitive age, man didn't have these materials, right? Man did not have any fabric. So what was man wearing? Man was trying to cover the bodies from the heat and the cold by using the plants, the leaves, or just stitching the leaves together, or using the branches of the leaves, branches of the trees. And then slowly they also started using the animal, the skin of animals was used, and then came the clothes. When did the clothes come in? The first, of course, the fabric and materials, but the sewing of clothes and all came in when the needle was invented, when the sewing machine was invented, and man got to know, yes, we can stitch the clothes using the fabric. Okay, that is when the clothes started getting stitched. Now we see that even in the clothes which we wear, previously there was a different style of clothes which people used to wear in the ancient times. Then in the medieval times, different types. And according to the climate, also the clothes which people wear are different. And again, the places where very cold areas, people don't just go around in a shirt and a trouser, but then they will wear woolen clothes. So the fabric there is woolen fabric is used. And then where it is very hot, very humid and all, what is used? Cotton. So cotton fabric is used. Then for festivals and occasions and all, we see we use silk. A lot of silk is used. Yes, but then cotton, and if we're talking about jute, these days even you get jute shirts, jute material. Previously, it was used only to make, bags and ropes, gunny bags. But then these days, jute, the fine jute fiber is used to make the even clothes, kurtas. So if you go to khadi store, everything is made of cotton. And then you also have the jute kurtas, as I told, kurtas, and then you have dresses made of jute. So jute is also very nice and comfortable during the summer season. So jute is also used to make clothes. So if you see, this is the history, this is how the style of clothing, styles, the various styles have changed over a period of time. If you see, go to a clothes shop, you'll see different varieties. You can pick anybody, whatever you want, or because every person's tastes are different. Every person wants something different. Every person wants to wear, something very trendy. Some want to wear something not very trendy, but then very comfortable. So depending on that, you can find in the stores many such varieties of clothes. And all these clothes which you find in the stores, they're made up of some or the other fabric. So out of those fabric, so we have learned from the fiber to the fabric, what are the stages to get the fabric, what all processes are done. That is, if we're talking about the natural fabric, we're talking about cotton and jute. So from the cotton plant to the yarn and to the fabric, from the jute plant to the yarn and to the fabric. Okay. So you'll be learning more about the animal or the animal products or animals which give wool and silk. Silk are the fabrics which are obtained from animals, and this you'll be learning in your grade 7, okay, in detail. So for grade 6, you have learned about the natural fabric, which is cotton and jute. And we are talking about how cotton is fabric. Cotton is obtained from the cotton plant, converted into yarn and into the fabric. Similarly, jute. Okay. So what have you learned till now? So you have learned about the fibers. What is a fiber? It is the basic unit of any textile product. Yes, so fibers can be natural fibers or they can be synthetic fibers. Natural fibers can be plant fibers or they can be animal fibers. Natural fibers are cotton, jute. Of course, we are also talking about coir, flax and all, but then we are talking about making into fabric. So mostly we are talking about cotton and jute. So what happens in a cotton fabric manufacture? So we have the cotton balls. Cotton balls are nothing but the fruit of cotton. Yes, the fruit. So cotton plant, the fruit are known as cotton balls. Inside the fruit, there is a seed with the cotton fibers. So the cotton mass, which is obtained from the balls, has the seed. So it undergoes ginning. It will undergo what? Ginning. We have done. Ginning is separating of the seed from the cotton fiber. Yes. So we get the cotton seed, and from the ginning, we'll also get the lint of cotton mass, the cotton, complete cotton minus the seed. Okay, from the cotton mass, again now we get the yarn. Yarn is by spinning. By spinning these cotton fibers, we get the yarn. And from the yarn, we get fabric either by knitting or by weaving. Knitting or weaving. Okay, so this is the complete cycle of the cotton plant, cotton fiber to the fabric. Cotton fiber to fabric. That's why the chapter's name is fiber to fabric. Okay, now if we see, this is spinning and then weaving, spinning, then it goes to weaving. Weaving can be, and from the weaving, again dyeing and printing plus finishing, and then garment manufacturing. So this is the complete textile manufacturing process. Okay, so we have got the fiber. From the fiber is spun into yarn, and after spinning into, so spinning means we are getting the yarn. Yes, from the yarn, by weaving and all, we get the fabric. Once we get the fabric can be dyed, because if we take cotton, we'll get only white, isn't it? But then you see clothes are of multi-colors, many colors. So how do we get those colors? By dyeing. Then there is, cotton is not always plain. You don't get only plain red, plain blue, plain green. But then there's a lot of print. So how is the printing also is done? Then a finishing is given after printing and everything, finishing, and then it comes out as the material in the markets, and it goes for the garments manufacturing. It goes to do these industries which manufacture these garments, and those garments, they come into the market and we buy from the shops. Okay, so this is what you have learned. So now you will all read the complete chapter and will try and answer all the questions, so that you know that and you feel confident that you can answer any question related to the chapter. Okay, so I'll see you in the next chapter. Till then, this is Usha Mangikudi signing off.